Hey guys, Joel's coming at you with another reasoning session where I challenge the status quo of the wisdom of the world and the church by diving deep into the ancient scriptures and applying them practically to situations in our present day. And today I gotta ask you, are you suffering from Esau-Perspective?
Come now and let us reason together. Come now, we can talk it over.
Now before I begin, I just gotta say, if you like these videos, give it a thumbs up and hit subscribe for more like content, because I'm honestly making videos like this all the time. There's a message that's coming through for this particular time in history, and I know that the people who watch these videos are the people that are ready to receive it, because Source is raising up an army of warriors in this time to actually bring the light forward and actually see things from this broader perspective in connection to Source. So go ahead and do all that jazz and leave a comment if you feel like it, because that also helps the algorithm spread this message. But with that out of the way, I'm just going to jump right into it. I mentioned Esau-Perspective, and Esau was actually the twin brother of Jacob, or Jacob in the English. And later on, Yaakov's name was changed to Israel when he wrestled with the angel, and from there he had 12 sons, which became the 12 tribes of Israel. But while they were alive, Esau and Yaakov were constantly arguing and fighting for their birthright. In fact, even when they were born, they were fighting for their birthright, because the first came out red all over like a hairy garment, and they called his name Esau. And after that came his brother out, and his hand took hold on Esau's heel, and his name was called Yaakov, which aptly means supplanter. But we read that after they had grown, one day Yaakov sawed pottage, or he was boiling stew. And Esau came from the field, and he was faint. And Esau said to Yaakov, "Feed me, I pray you, with that same red pottage, for I am faint." Therefore was his name called Edom, and Edom is just the Hebrew word for red. And in the Hebrew he says literally, "Feed me please with that ha-Adam, ha-Adam," or the red, the red. And Yaakov said, "Sell me this day your birthright." And Esau said, "Behold, I am at the point to die, and what profit shall this birthright do to me?" And Yaakov said, "Swear to me this day." And he sware unto him, and he sold him his birthright unto Yaakov. Then Yaakov gave Esau bread and pottage of lentils, and he did eat and drink, and rose up and went his way. Thus Esau despised his birthright. So we see that in Esau's mind, he literally thought that he was going to die. So he said, what good is this birthright? What good is a blessing for the future if I'm dead? So he traded that for a bowl of stew. And then, of course, he kept on living. But the whole point of the insight here is that what good is it to go on living without the birthright, without the blessing? Like if you die now, your blessing doesn't do you very much good, but at least you lived one day with a blessing. Imagine going on to live for years and years with no blessing. And when it came time for him to actually receive the blessing of his birthright from his father, who was about to die, Yaakov beat him to it and actually conned his father by wearing goat skins, and his father was blind so he couldn't see. So when he felt his arms, he thought it was Esau. So Yaakov walked away with the blessing, and when Esau came too late, Esau said, "Have you but one blessing, my father? Bless me, even me also, O my father." And Esau lifted up his voice and wept, because this was serious stuff. If you didn't go with the blessing of your parents, you literally had no authority to carry that legacy onward. And those good words that would have materialized, well, they weren't resting on you. But Yitzchak did his best to bless Esau despite the blessing that he gave Yaakov. And he said, "Behold, your dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth and of the dew of heaven from above." But then there's this clause that goes with it. "And by your sword shall you live, and shall serve your brother. And it shall come to pass when you shall have the dominion, that you shall break his yoke from off your neck." So the words declared over him are words of hardship and toil, but just for the bowl of stew. Again, he didn't think from that broader perspective, like, what if I keep on living without the blessing? In his mind, he's just like, let me eat so that I can live. One day to live is not as good as a few decades maybe, but he didn't see that perspective that those decades would be spent in this kind of hardship and servitude to his brother. And that kind of short-sightedness kills a lot of us because we tend to see our physical circumstances. And yeah, like we're doing all these physical things to keep those physical circumstances at a status quo, at a certain threshold level. Like even when I was raw vegan, well, technically I was fruitarian. And like I would notice like if I ever ate something that was out of my normal diet, like it affected my ability to articulate, it affected my agility, just my overall energy level. But that was when I was still being ruled by the physical circumstances. And once I realized that I could tap into this level of awareness, where awareness was king, I manifested above and beyond even the threshold that afforded me. So like, sure, that was a stepping stone in my journey, but now like, I'm just regular vegan and even eating junk food vegan. But you know, I'm not ruled by those physical circumstances anymore. So I actually affect my physical circumstances from beyond those limitations. And now that doesn't go to say like you can do whatever you want, because obviously these physical things that manifest as things we do to maintain that status quo, they act in harmony, in orchestration with this physical reality as a tug of war to actually bring about these outcomes. But the physical manifestation is not primary. The physical manifestation is a result of the non-physical awareness and causative energies that are actually being allowed to flow through, irregardless of the circumstances. That's what we got to tap into. That's where the real power lies. You're not ruled by physical circumstances, and you manifest beyond those circumstances. That's what the blessing is. When you can actually tap into this awareness, and from that awareness, you can actually see all those things that come through despite the circumstances. And that's really what a blessing is. It literally means when logic and reason defy this outcome, it will come to you irregardless. So we've got to be aware and not fall into this trap, because later on in the Oracle of Malachi, or Malachi as some English pronunciation calls it, the name literally means my messenger. And he says right in his opening passage, I loved Yaakov and I hated Esau. And he goes on describing the contrast between Esau and Yaakov, because Yaakov was operating from this broader perspective. Eventually, he learned the system of government, how Source actually manages the seed time and harvest. And he came to his own rude awakening when he realized that he'd conned his brother and he was in for a harvest to be conned. So again, just because the physical circumstances dictate that something should happen, or that's the trend that is coming to us, Source sees it from beyond that, and we can actually manifest way beyond the limitations that we see coming to us, because Source is infinite. And through tapping into that infinity, we can actually download pieces of the kingdom of heaven as each of our unique individualities allow us to bring that whole picture together. When the more of us that do this, the more of that reality manifests into our physical world. So lose the Esau-Perspective, lose that paradigm, and actually tap into Source and live in the actual blessings. Don't worry about just going on and carrying on in the physical world, trying to do your best to stay alive. Actually know that there's a broader perspective in your destiny, and through tapping into Source, you can actually fulfill that destiny. So I love you guys. I'll check you in the next reasoning sesh. Joel signing out once again. Agape. Salaam. Namaste. Shalom.